So hopefully part 1 is already uploaded, or at least in the process of uploading, so it doesn't go 2-1 instead of 1-2. And yeah, it looks like it'll be up in 45 minutes, which is crazy because it's only 2 minutes long. That doesn't seem right. So suggest you check that out before you watch this. Or just watch this and then, for reference, check that out. Either way, you're going to want to see that. The map is incorrect. It shows, well, one map just has a bunch of sporadic places where heresies had broken out. And you had another map that showed the Manichaeans in Palestine. Mani was, I believe, born to a Christian mother. Zoroastrian father, was learned about Buddhism and blended the three together. And Manichaeanism, I guess you can call it a type of Gnosticism. Many like to think that it's a it can fit into any religious system. You could be anything, and Manichaeanism kind of slips in because it's the secret teachings. It's the core of all real religions. That's not what it was. It came up, Manichaeanism, just to get that out of the way first, came up around the same time as the Mazdakis arose. It was right around the time, and Mani, the start of Manichaeanism, thought he was going to convert the king to Manichaeanism, and he would be a proper little pope times 10. He would be the incarnation of the prophet, ruling over all the Zoroastrians, all the Buddhists, and all the Christians. Because think of all the kingdoms. You had the Gupta kingdom, the Gupta Empire. You had the Sasanian Empire, that's Zoroastrian, it had a lot of Christians in there, and you had the Byzantine Empire, or the Roman Empire, which is Christian. So he was going to be basically more powerful than the three great emperors. Well, he got killed. And it kind of died out. It existed in certain parts. Augustine was a Manichaean for a while. The last remnant of Manichaeanism died out in the 17th century in southern China. And it always retained parts of Christianity in there. And it really doesn't have much more Buddhism in it than Orthodoxy or Roman Catholicism or Methodism, you know. I mean, Zoroism and Christianity have a hell of a lot in common as it is. But, well, again, I was asked about Catharism. And the question was, if I can get to it, can you do a video about the Cathars? Could you do a video exposing Catharism in the Western Church? They endorse homosexuality as a virtue, as the Cathari Gnostics did in the 1200s. Well, Catharism in the modern church, I don't know if there's a modern Cathar church. If there is, they're not homosexuals. Let me tell you that. The Gnostics, what are the three things the Gnostics hated? The physical world, sex, and childbirth. And lust was the most evil sin, or acting on that lust, actually having sexual relations, because it's fully carnal. You can't reach spirituality through the carnal flesh. It's mortifying the flesh that gets it that way, scarring the flesh. This is why the perfecti, and it wasn't equal men and women, like people think it was. The equality between men and women was that both were trash, and women had to become men and males in a certain way. You can read this heavily into a lot of the ancient Gnostic stuff that unfortunately Christianity is responsible for Gnosticism. People can say it comes out of paganism, and I used to say that a lot, and more I see it, it comes out of Christianity. People screwing around with Christianity. But these Cathars, the first time we hear Cathar is a heretical group that basically people are making fun of around Nicaea. Oh, the damn Cathars. In fact, the strictness of Roman Catholic monasteries and ascetic life comes from the Cathars, the Albigensians. What we usually think of as Cathars, the 11th, 12th, 13th centuries of the Languedoc region. Now, unfortunately, they wanted to match their piety in fasting, in celibacy, and renouncing the world so they could win them over. So that's how a lot of this harsh stuff got in, of obedience of silence, of never seeing another woman in your life, of walling yourself into somewhere so the world couldn't tempt you. That's Gnosticism. Unfortunately, when the Albigensian Crusade was given, you had the King of France said, I mean, initially there was many efforts of people like Saint Dominic with the Rosary. You know, no, women are good. Look at the Virgin Mary; she is good. Physical world is beautiful. There was a long attempt to just reason with these people, win them over, and it's not until Cathar started killing unarmed people that they said, all right, we're going to wage a hostile. We're going to raise arms, because a crusade didn't necessarily mean fighting. It was a crusade against the heresy, not against the living beings. Well, the King of France didn't pick it up. He said, I'm fighting a war in Flanders right now. I can't do this. So the barons from the north, who were crooked, went to the south, and they just wanted to steal land. And that's when it got real brutal. Unfortunately, you had the extreme Albigensians, these not the Cathars of Nicaea, but the kind of like the Bogomils or the Paulicians, these ascetics that would, basically kill anybody who's wearing a cross. They were against the cross. They hated anything physical because they believed there was the evil god that created the physical world. Sex was a way of worshiping the demon god, and childbirth and children were horrible, and they basically be better if they died instantly because their souls were plucked from the pleroma, and the good god was fully spiritual. Their only sacrament was becoming the perfecti, and after you became perfecti, you starved yourself to death. And this was reserved for men. I don't know where people get women from. Yeah, I read something on it where it was like men and women were equal. No, they weren't. But you had those groups, but you also had things like Waldensians and various different beliefs, and basically people that really didn't care what they believed in southern France. So many of the townspeople would defend them until they actually started finding out what these people were doing. And then whoa. But it essentially turned into a land grab. That's why it's got all the infamy. Now, the Bogomil stuck around a little bit longer, and they were in the east, and this is where we get the toll houses from, because there is no salvation from God. There is no beauty in the world. There are no kind acts that you can do. It's push everyone aside, and you get there, and as soon as you achieve enlightenment, once you shed this moral coil, you would never look down at anybody with compassion. In fact, to break the bonds with this world, you have to abandon your child, abandon your mother, and never go to a funeral. Now you see where the monasteries start being influenced by these things to combat them, and they almost become Gnostic themselves. Because to have love or compassion or care for anything around you means you're still trapped in the physical world. You need to ascend away from it. The best example of Albigensian Catharism would be Falun Gong in China right now. They would never feed the poor. Feeding the poor is just feeding the starving man, or nursing somebody back from the brink of death is the worst thing you can do, because they should be mindful and okay with the fact that they're suffering and dying. If you help them or if you feed them, you're actually doing something horrible. It's kind of like how Buddhism treated people before it got westernized. In the old Buddhist countries, before they were westernized, feeding the poor people. I mean, there were some places, not in all places, but feeding, helping somebody, not just feeding poor people just for like a day, but actually trying to get somebody out of that station in life was sometimes punishable by death. When I say Buddhist countries, I don't mean that. I'm thinking of two specific kingdoms where they were actually ruled by the monasteries. They weren't even ruled by kings. It was monastery rule. My mind's blanking right now. But that's the essence of this karmic, of any type of karmic or Gnostic or docetic belief systems, is that you would never, after you're looking into the glory of infinite oblivion, you would never turn back and try to help somebody, because it's only you. It's pure selfishness and pure elitism. And every Gnostic I talk to winds up saying, of course we're elitist. Shouldn't we be elitist? We know more than those stupid, filthy, those people. We are elitist because we do know better, and we are more compassionate. And, well, we're not really compassionate. You shouldn't have compassion. It just hinders you. You're not as smart. You're just like, why not study at Caltech? Why would you be helping retarded children learn how to read and write when you can be at Caltech? Learning how to do all these great things. Where the Christian or the Muslim or the Jew would say, it's better to help those children than it is to advance your own thing, because you live for others. It's co-suffering love. Gnosticism, Buddhism, and any karmic system or docetic system despises co-suffering love. And I don't mean all Buddhism. There's these schmaltzy, fancy Buddhism out there that's nah. And Buddhism had taken different incarnations where it can be practiced in an elegant way, certain forms of it. So this is not against Buddhism. I'm just using, I wish I had the name of the two kingdoms. It's the Gupta, no, it's not the Gupta, but this is how Gnosticism acts. I keep saying Buddhism because I think it's going to charge my mind to make me remember, but I can't remember. I'll make a third video on this as well, but this is a primer of how the Gnostic, the Albigensian, the Polish, and the Bogomil, all that kind of stuff. The toll houses, that's where we got the toll houses from. This is why I'm fighting, me and Lazar and Gambler are fighting the toll houses, because it's a Bogomil lie. Heresies had broken out, and you had another map that showed the Manichaeans in Palestine. Mani was, I believe, born to a Christian mother. Zoroastrian father was learned about. So hopefully part 1 is already uploaded, or at least in the process of uploading, so it doesn't go 2-1 instead of 1-2. And yeah, it looks like it'll be up in 45 minutes, which is crazy because it's only 2 minutes long. That doesn't seem right. It's the core of all real religions. That's not what it was. It came up, Manichaeanism, just to get that out of the way first, came up around the same time as the Mazdakis arose. It was right around the time, and Mani, the start of Buddhism, and blended the three together. And Manichaeanism, I guess you can call it a type of Gnosticism. Many like to think that it's a it can fit into any religious system. You could be anything, and Manichaeanism kind of slips in because it's the secret teaching. So suggest you check that out before you watch this, or just watch this and then for reference check that out. Either way, you're going to want to see that the map is incorrect. It shows well, one map just has a bunch of sporadic places where